72 hours, one fragile ceasefire, a war at sea, and a planet overheating. Welcome to Zenith Global News, your eye on a world at the breaking point. Here's what's making headlines around the world. The world is on edge, as Donald Trump extends a fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran, but make no mistake, the war isn't over. In the Strait of Hormuz, a dangerous war of blockades is unfolding. Ships are being seized, trade is choking, and tensions are rising fast. Iran has refused peace talks, demanding the US lift its naval blockade first, leaving diplomacy in complete deadlock. Meanwhile, Pakistan is scrambling to hold both sides together, with just 72 hours rumored for a possible breakthrough. But the situation is spiraling, oil prices are surging, global markets are shaking, and even inside Washington, chaos grows after Trump fires a top Navy official mid-crisis. Beyond the conflict, the United Kingdom moves toward a smoke-free future, while India faces extreme heat, with a looming super El Niño threatening global climate disaster. The ceasefire holds, for now. But the question is, how long before it breaks? Now, let's dive into the details of today's biggest stories.
US and Iran in blockade standoff as Pakistan pushes for talks. The world holds its breath as a fragile ceasefire extended by a cryptic Truth Social post from President Donald Trump barely restrains total collapse. But peace is a ghost. In its place, a war of blockades chokes the Strait of Hormuz. Commercial vessels are now prey, seized in a combustible cycle of force that threatens to spiral into an uncontrollable inferno. In Islamabad, the silence is deafening. Hopes of a historic diplomatic triumph have soured into a gloomy realization. Empty hotels and sealed-off streets stand as monuments to a missed opportunity. While Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif clings to the wreckage of mediation, the parties remain worlds apart. Trump, eyes on a looming state visit from King Charles and a high-stakes trip to China, oscillates between olive branches and apocalyptic threats. Meanwhile, Tehran sits in the shadows, bruised and battered, yet defiant, accusing Washington of betrayal. As the US hints at a fractured Iranian leadership, the terrifying question remains: in a regime stripped of its old guard, who is left to hold the pen or pull the trigger? The stage is set, the waterway is a powder keg, and the clock is ticking toward midnight.
Trump announces extension of Iran's ceasefire until discussion concluded. In a whiplash of high-stakes brinkmanship, the world was jerked back from the precipice of total war. Just hours after declaring he expected to be bombing, President Donald Trump pivoted, extending a 2-week ceasefire that many feared had already breathed its last. Citing a seriously fractured Iranian regime and a personal plea from Pakistan's leadership, Trump's Truth Social decree traded imminent airstrikes for a tense, suffocating peace. But this is no olive branch. It is a chokehold. The US blockade remains clamped tight, a steel ring around Iranian ports that Tehran denounces as blatant piracy. In Islamabad, the air is thick with the scent of a missed miracle. While Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif scrambles to salvage the ruins of diplomacy, the Iranian chairs remain empty. Tehran has rejected the extension as a ploy for a surprise strike, refusing to negotiate under the long shadow of American steel. As JD Vance's visit is shelved and the Strait of Hormuz remains a graveyard for commerce, the question isn't if the fire will return, but who will strike the match. The ceasefire persists, but the drums of war have never been louder.
Iran won't attend peace talks despite ceasefire extension. Final decision. The clock struck midnight, but the guns remained silent, not out of peace, but out of a frozen, bitter stalemate. In a stunning 11th-hour decree, President Donald Trump declared an indefinite extension of the ceasefire, vowing to hold his fire until diplomacy yields a conclusion. Yet, even as Washington offers a reprieve from the air, Tehran has slammed the door shut. The chairs in Islamabad will remain empty. In a final, stinging message delivered through Pakistani mediators, Iran has boycotted the negotiations, flatly refusing to travel for Wednesday's summit. The 10-point framework that once promised an end to the war has disintegrated into a complete deadlock. Tehran's terms are absolute. The talks are dead until the U.S. lifts its suffocating naval blockade, which they brand a flagrant breach of the ceasefire. While Vice President JD Vance remains grounded in Washington and the excessive demands of American negotiators stall in the mud, the world is left with a haunting reality. The ceasefire persists, but the bridge to peace has collapsed. The war isn't over. It has simply moved to the water, where the blockade chokes the life out of diplomacy. 36 to 72 hours. Good news teaser on Iran-US Round 2 peace talks. The abyss is deep, but a flicker of light has emerged from the darkness. Amidst the wreckage of failed summits, a sudden, electric surge of hope has pulsed through the back channels of Islamabad. Reports now suggest a breakthrough could be just 36 to 72 hours away, with Donald Trump himself signaling that good news is possible. Yet, this fragile optimism is being strangled by the reality on the water.
Even as the ceasefire technically holds, the Revolutionary Guard has struck, allegedly seizing 2 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. The world's most vital oil artery is slick with the threat of renewed violence, while in Lebanon, Israeli strikes and Hezbollah retaliation continue to tear at the seams of a separate, crumbling truce. Pakistan remains the desperate linchpin, working feverishly to bring a fractured Tehran back to the table after the humiliation of empty chairs. While JD Vance remains grounded and the White House waits for a unified proposal, the region teeters on a razor's edge. Is this the dawn of a miracle deal, or merely the final, desperate gasp of diplomacy before the cannons roar again? The clock is ticking.
Trump fires top U.S. Navy official, reports cites bad relations with Hegseth. As the war of blockades strangulates the Middle East, a different kind of war has erupted within the walls of the Pentagon. In a stunning wartime purge, President Donald Trump has fired Navy Secretary John Fallon effective immediately, decapitating the leadership of the very force tasked with holding the line against Iran. The dismissal marks a brutal escalation of internal upheaval. Fallon, once a billionaire ally, reportedly fell out with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and was accused of moving with glacial speed on the president's Golden Fleet initiative, a $1.5 trillion gamble to outbuild China. With an ethics investigation looming and relations with the Pentagon's top brass shattered, Fallon becomes the latest casualty in Hegseth's relentless campaign to remold the military through fire. While the U.S. Navy flows more assets into the volatile Strait of Hormuz to enforce a high-stakes blockade, its civilian leadership is in shambles. Senator Jack Reed warns of instability and dysfunction at the worst possible moment. As Iran mocks the administration with AI-generated taunts and the ceasefire teeters on a knife edge, Trump has proven that no one is safe, even his own hand-picked commanders, when the drums of war are beating.
UK bans smoking for people born after 2008. While the world watches the fires of the Middle East, a different kind of revolution has been codified in London. The United Kingdom has officially passed the Tobacco and Vapes Bill, a landmark decree that effectively outlaws the future for the tobacco industry. By barring anyone born after 2008 from ever legally purchasing a cigarette, the UK is attempting to engineer the world's first smoke-free generation. This is public health as grand strategy. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has hailed the move as a life-saving offensive designed to shield the NHS from the slow-motion catastrophe of lung disease. But the law goes further, clamping down on the vaping epidemic by purging flavors and banning the clouds from playgrounds, school gates, and hospital grounds. The UK now stands alongside the Maldives in this generational crusade, defying the ghost of New Zealand's retracted ban. Critics warn of economic fallout and the death of choice, but for the architects of this law, the mandate is clear: prevention is the ultimate weapon. As the sun sets on the century-old reign of King Tobacco in Britain, a healthier, nicotine-free horizon is being forcibly drawn. 19 of the world's 20 hottest cities in India, Niño make it worse. Will Super El? The ghost of 1878 has returned. Meteorologists are sounding the alarm as a super El Niño - a rare, climatic titan threatens to incinerate global temperature records. With the Pacific surface temperature surging more than 2.5 degrees Celsius above normal, this mega event could become the most powerful in recorded history, dwarfing the disasters of the past century. The impact is already catastrophic. India is currently the epicenter of a global furnace, home to 19 of the 20 hottest cities on Earth. In West Bengal, temperatures have screamed past 45 degrees Celsius, trapped under a suffocating heat dome that refuses to break. As the trade winds reverse, the life-giving monsoon, the heartbeat of Indian agriculture, faces a death sentence of suppression and drought. Mo is clear: humanity must adapt or be consumed by the heat. The little boy has grown into a monster, and the fire has only just begun.
Iran war updates. Iran says Hormuz reopening not possible as U.S. naval blockade violates ceasefire. The world is caught in a paralyzing paradox, a ceasefire that looks like war. While President Donald Trump has indefinitely extended the truce at the request of Pakistan's leadership, the U.S. naval blockade has tightened into a steel noose. Washington has already turned back 28 vessels, freezing Iran's economy while demanding a unified peace proposal. Tehran has countered with cold defiance. Branding the blockade as piracy and a blatant violation, Iran's Revolutionary Guard has retaliated, seizing 2 container ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The message from the Iranian parliament is clear: the waterway remains closed until the blockade breaks. As oil prices surge past $100 a barrel, the economic shockwaves are crippling Europe, forcing Germany to have its growth forecast. Meanwhile, the region bleeds. Israeli strikes in Lebanon and settler violence in the West Bank continue to shred fragile local truces. In Islamabad, the stage is set for a desperate second act. A high-level U.S. delegation, potentially led by JD Vance and Jared Kushner, is expected within 72 hours. Pakistan remains the sole bridge across the abyss, but with both sides dug into their red lines, the 72-hour window may be the final exit before total escalation.
If you value real, balanced reporting from across the globe, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss the stories that matter. Stay informed. Stay aware. Stay ahead, only on Zenith Global News.